welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast.
Kevin's eyes look insane, but he's got new hair. Virginia is a witch, and she farts in her chair. Jason is a spaz who's got an old man's ass. Welcome to the After the Show podcast.
Yeah, here we go. 3-day weekend, Memorial Day. Woohoo! Nice. Love weekends like this. They say that there's going to be a lot of traveling going on. Trying to get out, go all over the place. Flying, driving, all that stuff. In fact, today is National Road Trip Day, so I bet there's going to be a lot of people on the road.
There's a lot of national days today.
It
National
is.
Escargot Day, National... There's so many, Virginia.
Yeah, it's...
Escargot Day. That's so random.
I thought you liked that.
I do, but it's not really one of those things that a lot of people like. It's very...
Gross.
It is kind of gross when you think about it.
It's very gross.
It's a snail.
specialized kind of taste and acquirement.
Yes.
You get down with that, snail?
I mean, I'll do some stuff like that, but the snail particularly, I don't know. I do like oysters and some of that other slimier stuff that comes in shells, but I don't seek it out often. But when I do it, I enjoy it.
The best thing about escargot is the garlic butter, because they always serve it in like this little nest of garlic butter, and they give you like the bread to sop it up with, and that's really the star, I think.
So then is escargot just shit, and then the real day we should be celebrating is the butter.
Can I just have a cup of garlic butter and I'll
Right.
just drink that in
Yeah.
the corner like some kind of ratchet
Save it for
maniac?
Other national days, it's National Scavenger Hunt Day.
Ooh, I love a scavenger hunt.
Those are fun. It's National Brothers Day, and then National Asparagus Day. So there's a lot of national days of observance today.
Did asparagus make your pee smell weird?
It does.
It does?
Yeah, I do like it though. There's some places that do really good asparagus side dishes you can get.
I know that he's right. When you can really make it fatty and...
You can sometimes put that, what is that sauce they put on? Is it hollandaise or something like that?
Hollandaise is great. I love
Yeah.
a bacon wrapped.
Yeah, you can make them not shitty. In my classier years as I've gotten older, I will eat some of them, but they got to be done for like fat style.
I like them well done.
Yes.
I like them a little wilted. I like
too.
them, yeah, they're overdone and cooked in bacon grease.
Bacon.
That's why I
I
do
love
it.
it.
Yep.
There's no way that doesn't taste good.
It's so good.
We did a raise your hand poll today. Found out that one person on the show has stolen another coworker's lunch. That person was Jay Bird, who raised his hand.
I was back at Wild 95.5, and there was this frozen food that was in the freezer forever. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking months and months. And then the person, I was given bad information. I was told that was the person who got fired food, and they were never coming back. So
Right.
I'm like, fuck it. No,
Might as well eat
it's
it.
going to get freezer burnt. Well, come to find, I guess it was poor timing. I ate it, and maybe 3 days later, the woman who worked in AM went to go get it, and it wasn't there. And like, oh, Jaybird ate it, and it became a thing. And I'm like, I didn't know who was yours, I swear.
I was given bad information.
But then her team kind of turned on her and were on my side. And
Oh.
yeah, it was
wow.
It was bizarre.
What a mess.
I wasn't doing it to be dicky, but look, bottom line is this. I stole her food, and it became a thing.
People
Yeah.
turned on each other.
It did. It turned into a civil
Divides.
war. And
It divides.
she ended up becoming the villain because of it, which was kind of fucked up.
Gotten car sick. 3 out of the 5 of us have gotten car sick. Motion sickness by being in a vehicle. 60%. I am one of those. I just get motion sick a lot. Hate it. I grew up in a very rural area with a lot of really windy roads, and it was brutal.
Oh.
Yeah, we would play for basketball. I played. They call it bitty basketball. As little kids, as elementary school basketball. We'd have to travel to all these other rural towns in southeastern Ohio, and that meant just going through windy hills, country to get to it. Oh, I hated it. That's where I barfed up. I remember I ate a whole foot-long chili dog and a Klondike bar, and I barfed all over my buddy's dad's car, and he couldn't get the smell. I had to sell his car. That was terrible. Never lived it down.
How stinky was your barf?
I think it was the chili. I don't know. Chili cheese dog.
There's a lot
rough.
of flavor in there.
Yeah, it was rough. So anyway, let me see. Got 60% of us have bought drugs from a stranger. Denny's Bird in Virginia in on that action. Okay.
Yeah, I've been a part of nefarious groups on vacation, roaming around. You don't know anybody.
Well, back in the day, there'd be times where you couldn't get weed. Sometimes they would just dry up. It was dry, and My situation's a little bit. Yours sounds insane. Vacation from a stranger is insane. I was going there with a buddy on a recommendation, so he didn't know. Like, I didn't know the guy, and he didn't know me. So technically, he was a stranger, and it was fucking awful. Because the first thing the guy does is show us a gun.
Oh.
Yeah, that was awful. There was a helicopter flying over his place, and I'm getting all paranoid, thinking, "Oh shit, it's going down! It is going down."
SWAT is gonna move in for this dime bag deal.
Yeah, because the guy was trying to almost show off a little bit, and then he starts showing other drugs that he had. I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was just getting weed here." So I'm going, "Oh yeah, they're gonna bust in right now. They're busting in," and it was 5 o'clock traffic. That's why the helicopter was there.
It was Channel 5's chopper.
It was, but you're paranoid. You're thinking you're there just to get some weed. He's showing you a gun, other stuff. I wasn't ready for it.
I'm surprised you lasted that long.
I was not ready for it.
And then ever had phone sex? 60% of us have.
Whoa.
Yeah. Mine was way back in the day, but yeah.
Same here. Back when you first young love, you know.
What was your drug story?
I mean, I've bought drugs from so many strangers. I mean, on multiple occasions in
There's
different
just so
states. Yeah.
So many to get into.
I bought them. My big one was I always ask taxi drivers. They're driving you around anyway. You kind of get a feel for it. But I mean, I've bought weed from so many taxi. I've sold weed to taxi drivers.
If I was a taxi driver, how would you get into it in a way where you would feel comfortable? How's your tactic?
So sometimes when I travel too, I'll be with a friend or whatever, and I'll go, "Hey, we're in town. We're just wondering what's going on. Like, what's the fun stuff to do? You know, if somebody wanted to party a little bit, where would you go?"
I think you want to blow them.
He's like, "My house."
Is there
That's
a
not
look?
off the table.
How do you know when somebody's got weed and you can buy it off of them unless somebody points them to you and it's obvious? How
You
do
got to
you know?
ask a lot of people. You really don't know. That's why you kind of throw the feelers out. If somebody wants to sell you drugs and you throw out any clue of any sort, they're gonna immediately go into a drug combo.
So terms like we're looking to party. That's always
Well,
a
they
good.
go, "Hey, we want to go out drinking. You know, where's everyone hang out? You know, if you wanted to do something aside from drinking, where could we go for something like that? You know, if you're looking for some bud or something, you know, you throw out those. And if they're not cool with it, then you just go, "Okay, cool." And then you leave. I mean, they're not police officers. You just continue with your life. And then you try to ask somebody else. We used to do it every time we went on vacation anywhere.
Did you
I
ever
would
buy
ask.
drugs off somebody that just did not fit the profile at all? That was like
Totally.
you couldn't believe it, like a grandma that was knitting at a nursing home or something like that.
Funny enough, there was a guy I knew who grew weed, and it was way back before anything was legal and such. And the way he came up with it, I thought it was such a cool idea, but I don't know if it's that great of an idea. But
Back then, you thought it was great, and you were high.
and then I got older, and I go, I don't know if I feel like you get in so much trouble, but. They rented a space, right? But when they rented it, it was him and his friend. They dressed in suits, and they went and rented a room. It was like a hangar that you had the big garage and such, and it was in a business complex. So every day they would go in their suits and stuff, and then when they got there, they would undress into their normal clothes, and they would grow weed in this building that they just rented. And they would leave, and they put their suits back on and leave, and the people thought they were running a legitimate business out of it. They lied about what the business was.
Huh.
And they grew weed there it had to be 2.5 years. No one ever was. I went there all the time to buy weed, at least every 2 weeks.
So people didn't get suspicious when you had people that looked like they were using drugs walking in there all the time?
Well, so I would roll up there, and there was 2 other guys that we were all pretty good friends with them, so we were able to go in there, but he never had anyone go there. It was just those 2.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wouldn't sell out of there. He would just grow it out of there, but they were growing, huge amounts of plants.
Insane.
But
I
if you
know.
walk in a suit, nobody thinks, "Oh, this guy's growing growing
Well, so you would
pot.
say the electric bill would be high, but the business, it was just them too. So they never used any other electricity except for grow lights.
Okay.
That was the only thing they had. But they would go so dressed up and nice and dapper. They had nice cars. They both had BMWs. So nobody ever thought anything. And they grew
Yeah.
weed. I mean, I never heard of it getting shut down. I think they just stopped
Well, I think
doing
that'd be it.
it.
If you were in that game, it's just don't fit the profile because from the movies and everything else, you just imagine what a drug dealer looks like. And
Yeah.
if you just, hey, let's go the other way, then that would be the best way to do it. And then you're very discreet.
Well, that was the whole concept of weeds on Showtime. No one would expect her to sell weed and
Yeah.
get involved in weed.
That'd be the smartest business. And then, too, you could charge a premium rate. Because, look, there's a lot of rich people who do drugs.
Oh, yeah. Almost all rich. I feel like a lot of rich people
Well,
do
it's kind of like
drugs.
Diddy's mule got busted. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like if you're rich and powerful, you've got a guy that goes out and is your own personal drug dealer.
They
Makes
don't
it happen.
Yeah, they don't meet people and buy drugs. They
Yeah.
have somebody go do all that for them.
They have a tester as well.
Yeah.
Try this out. He's not dead. I'll have some.
Wow.
But yeah,
That's
there's
pretty
a lot of different ways of doing it. Stewart was pretty prolific with marijuana. I know it's super illegal there. I don't know what it's like anymore, but back in the day, they really cracked down on it. We used to grow weed out in there's forests. Forest where nobody would go into. People owned land that we didn't even know whose land it was, but we cut out a section once and we grew a ton of plants right in the middle. You had to walk.
Okay.
It's probably about an 8-minute walk to get to it.
Uh-huh.
We came out one day and a bunch of raccoons were eating them.
Oh.
Having a great time.
That's when we learned you have to put stuff around it, otherwise animals will eat it.
The raccoons had the biggest munchies.
What's cool about it was there was a cop in the area. I forget his name, but he's famous in Stewart for trying to bust people for marijuana. And he was out there looking for it, and it was all destroyed. So they didn't know who it was, but we overheard them talking about it one time. So we were like, oh my God. And we went out there and it was all ransacked. So they had gone on another day that we just weren't out there checking it.
Oh, wow.
And they kind of tore it all apart. But yeah, that whole, I mean, it was weird. Getting weed back then was very tough. It's much easier now.
Crazy.
There'd be days where you try to get some, and nobody would have any. You go through dry spells.
Well,
I
now we
haven't
have,
got
like-
through a dry spell in so long.
We have like weed Circle Ks.
yeah,
Well, that's what I was talking about.
Dispensaries have changed the game.
That's why I was
It
in the
has.
situation. We're talking a long time ago, but to your point, there were dry spells where all of a sudden everything would just dry up.
nobody could get it. You would call all your friends. Nobody would be able to
had
get
it.
it. Yeah, it'd be just so weird.
That's how you end up at a place with a guy with a gun. And a helicopter.
That's how you buy weed from strangers, yeah, because you get put in these weird
yeah.
situations. I bought other drugs from just insane situations, just because you're put in them because you don't think about it. You don't think it's gonna escalate like it does.
So if young Denny's saw the life of mature Denny's now, what do you think his first reactions would be? He could have a glimpse, seeing a video of what you do to get weed and how easy it is.
Oh, he would lose his mind. There was a time where, because I don't know, when I was younger, I was having a hard time. I go, man, if marijuana stays illegal, what is that going to be like for me when I get older? Because, it's something that I was pretty into when I was younger and still am. But if it didn't go the way it did, I mean, I moved to Colorado and they made it legal. And I felt like this is just a sign that I should be involved in this somehow. And then
here.
Should be involved
I
in
came back to Florida and then they
it's
made it.
fate.
It really is. It's just I just seen it change so much. It was so demonized when I was in middle and high school. Which I mean, you're younger age, it should be demonized, but
But it was
demonized
demonized
for adults,
for everybody.
for artists, everyone. But I mean, everybody was.
It still is with some people. Some people every now and then I'll get a message. You guys talk about weed too much.
They're gonna hate this
Yeah,
podcast.
they're gonna.
Yeah.
I just haven't thought about it back how hard it was. Just comparing it to now, you just don't even think about how hard it was to get those type of anything back then.
In our day.
Back in our day.
Today is Tommy Chong's birthday. 86, I think it is for him.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I saw that Snoop Dogg is auctioning off a bunch of stuff, including a Snoop authenticated smoked blunt and a display case with ashtray. Did you have a weed idol when you were growing up? Somebody that you aspired to? Because I know my buddy that smoked a lot. Like he started in 3rd grade and just loved weed so much. He dreamed of being, there was a guy that he'd always talk about. I think his name was Chef R.A.
3rd grade. That's Rocco.
Yeah. He had an older brother, And we didn't get it because you could go home for lunch if you lived by our elementary school, and he did every day, and he'd come back and just be all goofy. And we couldn't figure out, like, what's up with Josh, man? He would just act so weird. And it wasn't until later that we found out, his brother would make weed brownies, and he would go home, and he loved brownies, but he loved the way they made him feel. Mm-hmm. And he was just enjoying it. And he was a prolific pot smoker. In fact, he was the guy, you guys met him when
we did.
When you guys went up there.
Yes.
And we were chatting about some of the old weed days.
Pretty sure that's the guy that did not want to hang out with us.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, he was doing something else, and he stopped by to be cool.
He did to be cool, do it a favor to me.
Yep.
But then I was like, hey, if he's all married, he's very respectable now. He's like a
Whoa.
nurse and all that stuff.
I just remember
He doesn't smoke?
I don't know.
I did not get that
I didn't get
at
that
all.
vibe either.
I just remember we're hanging out at the bar, and I was just assuming everyone was going to the Bigfoot festival the next day. I'm like, so you're leaving? All right, man, it's great meeting you. I'm all drunk at this point. Go to the Bigfoot festival? I don't know. Nice meeting you. And he just walked out.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people in Logan actually, at least I hung out with, actually go to that Bigfoot festival. I don't know who it was there, but
I think it's got to be tourists.
A ton of people there.
It was.
I think it's probably almost like the South Florida Fair. You know how you just go out and people come from, you don't know where, but you never see these kind of people ever out except for the South Florida Fair. I think that's maybe what the Bigfoot Festival's like, because we got a lot of people up in the hills and down in the hollers, and
We were expecting.
they come crawling out.
We were expecting some bullshit. And when we
Yeah, it
got
was
out
much
there,
larger
we're
than I
going,
thought it
wow,
was.
this is and Logan was way more beautiful than I thought it would be.
It's a beautiful town.
It really
yeah.
is.
Yeah, nestled in the hills there.
Did it cost money to get into the Bigfoot Festival?
No, I think it was free to walk around.
No
they
one
had
would
tons
pay.
of things to do.
No one would pay.
You're
That's
right.
not true. There would be a few
No.
people that would have paid. I would have paid.
This clown would pay.
There's about 3 clowns I know that would have paid.
I think we were in a bar in Logan. There was the night before the festival.
Yeah.
And we went out back to smoke, and we were chiefing. And then we looked to our left after smoking and saw a whole table of police officers. It was so awful. I go, we're
totally
going to get
fucked.
damn arrested and freak out.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, no, weed's very prominent there.
No, they were all.
I mean,
just-
it was an entire
Yeah.
table.
It was.
of them.
I think were they in uniform?
They
Or-
all were in uniform. None of us saw them the entire time we smoked. And then we turned, and I go, oh, my God.
I mean, and they had flat tops.
Oh, yeah.
One had, I think, his hand on a taser.
Wow.
It was a whole table of police officers. We
What
went
the
in the
hell?
back, and
That's
we were
amazing.
hitting the pen, so I don't know if it was this fragrant,
Yeah,
but I mean,
Yeah.
good gosh, we couldn't have been more daring.
We were somewhat hidden, but then we started getting paranoid. Like, let's just walk real quick back into the bar.
That's when we went back into the bar.
Run!
That's
when your
amazing.
friends wanted to run away from us. I don't think anyone wanted us there.
Making everybody nervous. Yeah, so my buddy Josh that you had met, he wanted to be Chef RA. He was a cook, and he would always make weed infused. And he's like, one day, I thought, it's weird where he is now. I thought one day he'd have his own weed restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Especially the way things have changed, how it's been
Yeah.
more accepted.
Yeah, if he could have had that dream. So did you ever have anybody growing up? Was it like a Cheech
It's hard-
Chong, a Snoop Dogg, a Willie Nelson, anybody like that?
So one of the kids I hung out with when I first started using drugs, his father had a bunch of Cheech and Chong records. They'd be just
Yeah.
skits and stuff. They would do
Yeah.
songs and skits, and we would listen to
yeah.
those. Those are hilarious.
Right.
But mainly, I would say Bob Marley was a huge influence because I was big into music. I started playing
Okay.
music, and it had to be a bit. Looking back, it was 3rd grade.
Yep.
Was when I first picked up
Look,
guitar.
some people smoke weed in 3rd grade. Some people play guitar.
So I got really big into Sublime, reggae music in general. Kind of was very weed themed. There wasn't much else, but even Green Day, I had the Green Day Dookie album. There's a picture in there of him holding a joint, and I remember asking my dad, like, how can you hold that up if it's an illegal drug? How do they have a photograph of him in a CD and he doesn't get arrested for it?
Yeah.
And you just realize celebrity gets a little bit of leeway in those type of situations.
Yeah, and then you have to
Gotcha.
prove it. And
Well,
all
yeah.
that
How, I
kind
mean,
of
how
stuff.
can
That
you
was
even prove
94.
it? How can you prove that's a
How
real
could you prove
joint?
that's a real joint for sure? But yeah, I was like, that's so cool. He's not afraid to show who he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just music. I was very into music, and then it seemed like just from working in the industry, marijuana is a big part of music.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of groups, even if the band is not even marijuana themed or centralized around pot of any sort. They just love it. It just really goes well. It really handshakes music.
I think it kind of depends upon like what vibe they're in. It's almost like different genres. I was watching a little bit of the Duran Duran biography yesterday that they have on Netflix, and they were talking about the drugs. They seem like they were more of a disco drug kind of band.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't be smoking the weed so much.
But that's what Denny's is saying. Even if you're not a weed type band, if you're
Members
some kind of
still
drug.
smoke weed.
Duran Duran, I guarantee you still smoke some weed. I bet.
Yeah.
A lot of
times.
bands like a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll do
A
anything.
variety.
I think Duran Duran probably did a bunch of different drugs as well.
Yeah.
But it
Club
seems like
drugs.
marijuana, even in the studios, at Transcontinental, we would do sessions, and they'd have hip hop groups go through there. And when I was first working there, I was an intern, so we would get to go in and we'd have to clean. It's called striking the room. It's resetting the room back to zero, so the next person comes in, the next engineer comes in. They don't have to reset anything. It's all back to the way.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to strike the room. So when you strike the room, he goes, any weed you find, you can keep. And it was like my first day when I got to strike a room, and I was like, any weed I find, I can keep. So I went in there. It was bags of weed. They send a handler out to get drugs.
Yeah.
They get a ton of drugs, and then anything they don't want, they just leave. They're going to another place.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? So
They don't want to carry
they
it.
don't want to have to travel with it. They can just
Well, they
get
don't
it
want
at
to get
another.
busted with it, I'm sure, too.
Right.
Yeah, they don't.
It's
so,
better to
Because
have
then you're
it.
riding dirty.
So they buy
yeah.
enough for the evening. A lot of times they buy more than they need. And a lot of times they'll get prostitutes too. They like to do that.
Wow. Huh.
But yeah, a lot of times they'll get drugs for their entourage. It's not just for the artist; it's for the whole group.
Yeah.
They're trying to create a vibe. They're
Right,
writing
right,
music. They're
right.
trying to create albums.
Yeah.
So you got to have drugs. You got to have people to party with, and then after they record, they would just party all night. It's just a pretty wild lifestyle.
Would you stay there for the whole session?
Yeah, so Transcon was cool. It had suites you could rent. So if you were a traveling artist or you were recording in the studio for a few days, they had rooms you can rent in there with showers, a couch, a TV, a bed.
Oh, wow.
So you
Okay.
could stay there if you wanted, or if you were pulling a late night session. Some artists, they won't start recording till 3 a.m. They will not even
Yes,
step into a
heard that.
booth
Well, that's
until
when all the drugs kick in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll sleep. If the band's recording music and stuff and they're not needed, they'll be sleeping. And then when they're finished with their stuff, we got the mix good enough, the guy will come in and track his stuff. A lot of times it won't be till 3 a.m.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
there's sometimes where the engineers will go take a nap because you're not doing anything until that guy wakes up, and they wake you up
Right.
and you're like, all right, I got to start recording.
I can only imagine that'd be so tough because with all the drugs and the attitudes and
Ego.
yeah, just,
lots of ego.
I imagine there's probably times you go in, you have a studio session set for 10 p.m. and you get there and it's 10 a.m. the next day and still no one showed up.
Or they get in there and you think you're going to start recording and they just want to do drugs and chat.
Yeah.
And you spend 4 hours just chatting with them. You haven't even done anything. And then you're texting your girlfriend that you're going to be about 4 hours late.
It's such a storyline of so many bands, even the Eagles. If somebody, Metallica, people would do drugs, get drunk, not show up on time, and then three of them would be okay to perform, and we're waiting on the one the other person.
The best is when the manager disagrees with the agent and they don't have the same vision as the artist. That's the best because you're just sitting in a room while three people argue with each other, and they all are pulling title constantly. It's insane. And then one of them will storm out, and they're like, "Just do it." And I go, "Am I doing that, or am I?" And they're like, "No, I get paid more than him, so we're doing it this way." People throw their title constantly, and they always get their way. Whoever has the highest title. So.
Yeah, I think that really does kind of always happen. And I think for artists, just like I said, watching a little bit of the Duran Duran yesterday, they're in a place, I can see it now with Dua Lipa. Because look, she's making one great pop song after another, but, they're all kind of like pretty similar.
Yes.
And Duran Duran was talking about how they were making their first two albums. Rio was their second, was super huge. They made Seven and the Ragged Tiger, kind of in the same vein. Then they're on to record number 4. And they get with Nile Rodgers, and he has a different sound. And like, hey, we like this. This is a different feel and vibe. And the record was like, bullshit. Like, no, you do what makes the money. Like, we're paying all the bills here, so you're doing. And then that was the fight. And it feels like when you get to album 3, going on 4, something like that, you're just saying, hey, we want to still be excited about the music we create. Now it just feels like it's just an assembly line. We're just
Hungry
cranking.
Like the Wolf Part 2.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're just making the same song over and over again. And where's the art? Where's the passion? Where's the
Yeah.
emotion in that?
Man, the business does not care about that. Their only number they care about is how many people listen to you. In fact, in modern music, you can't even get signed unless you already have a following on social media. They're buying your following. They're not really even buying your music.
Right.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the
it
game
is.
has
It's true.
changed. I think
Yeah.
it used to be about the passion and creating the art, but through the 90s, they realized how much money this stuff makes and how much money this loses. They do not take any risks on anything at all, ever.
No, they don't. And honestly, it gets back to radio stations, too. The same way people get on us about, the music that's played, but they're not taking any risks. They go with everything that they know is tested and true, and that's it.
Movies are doing the same thing. They're just remaking stuff now because there's no point in taking a risk on a new IP.
Right.
Like, why even do it?
It's kind of a weird thing. That's why I'm glad we have the digital we do, because the people that take the risks and get a fan base, they're the ones that they just, throw a left hook and you're not expecting it. It's something radically different. And then you find an audience and it builds, and then a big label or production company buys that idea, and then they want you to just keep making that same idea again.
They say in the record industry, if a sound is hot, like say like a Lady Gaga, when she came out, I mean, she changed the music. Everybody started writing that style of music. When that sounds hot, you're already supposed to be working on the next sound. Don't work on that sound. Already 1,000 people are going to be making that exact sound. You want to try to figure out what's that next one.
Well, look at Taylor Swift doing the Lana Del Rey cover, Fortnite.
Yeah.
Is the same thing. They had that style. And then, I mean, how many... You were talking about this. How many guys sound like I only talk to God?
I need
the
a
Jelly
favor.
Roll,
It's a trend
Chris Stapleton, the kind of
Teddy
country.
Swims.
Yeah, Teddy Swims. I'm a big guy with a big voice, big booming voice.
Big beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of got some problems.
So if it works and
Luke
somebody...
Combs, all those guys fit in that kind of mold.
If they see it work once and it sells a lot, then everyone's going to try to do that because they know it's a sure thing. They can ride that, tailwind for a second.
Eat too much, drink too much, and growl sing.
Yeah, I think they just want to cash in. They want to make as much money off of it. They know that they're going to kill it.
Yeah.
But they just want to make and how many times in music has that happened? I remember the big ballad era, the power ballads. I hated that because I loved hairband music, but
They
freaking
bitchified your
they
hairband.
bitchified all of it, and then it killed it. And then grunge is like, oh, we're going to be something different, and it killed the music that I loved.
Yeah.
Because they did. They bitchified the music.
We just beat the dead horse
Yeah.
until no one wants it anymore.
Hey, you're right. It's exactly what happens. KJ wanted to know who's the worst person you ever worked with, Denny's, when you did your game. Is there somebody that just seemed terrible? Do you know?
Of all the artists.
It's tough to say because, I think I've told it in the past, but we even worked with R. Kelly. He came in back when he was hot.
Did you see him doing anything creepy or peeing on girls?
No, none of that stuff. He did get a lot of prostitutes, but I was the one tasked with getting cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol for that soiree.
Wow. You were the official guy. You were like the low-budget version of the guy that got caught with P. Diddy stuff.
Pretty much.
Mule.
I remember
You were the drug mule.
the studio manager at the time. He called me in. He's like, "Hey, real quick, we have a client coming in. He's looking for marijuana, cocaine. I thought maybe you'd be able to maybe find that." Because he had heard from my buddy Joe, who I worked with, and I was like, "Yeah, I could try to find that for you."
Yeah.
But yeah, so we that was just one of the things I was given. I was an intern. That's just how the music industry works right there.
Yeah,
Get
I
out there,
tell ya.
kid.
Yeah, he's get out there and hustle. But yeah, we must have picked up, I think it was like 24 cases of beer. It must have been $5,000 worth of cocaine. They come in and get and that was another one that if they leave it at the studio, you can do it if you want it. The studio manager's like, "Hey, just strike the room." He doesn't care what you do.
Strike it, clean it, record, edit.
I remember we used
I
to.
can now.
This cocaine smells great.
After there was this, I can't remember the artist. He wasn't a huge name artist, but he bought so much pot for his session, right? And it was in one of the big studios, so he must have had money. I just can't. I don't think he ever got big or anything. There was a lot of Lou Pearlman was my boss at the time, and he had a sound.
He's in prison now, right?
Yeah,
What's
I
his
think
deal? Or did he die?
I think he died.
Yeah, I think he did die.
He's in the ultimate prison.
Yeah.
He's dancing with the devil.
But he just wanted to make money, and so if something worked, he would just find 10 other things that were exactly the same. He didn't even care.
Yeah.
He would just cultivate these people to do things. But so this artist came in, and he had left so much weed. We must have smoked 25 blunts while striking the room. We had we just had so much weed. I didn't even know what to do with it all.
Right.
I can't believe this guy just left all this for us.
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't Jam Master Jay from Run DMC? He was killed in his studio, right? And I believe that was a drug deal kind of gone bad.
Yeah, that could
Cocaine.
happen.
He was running cocaine. I think that's what it was. He was selling cocaine. and somebody, I think he got blasted at the studio, so he was probably running it through the studio.
Well, sometimes too, if you work at a studio, because at a studio you'll have musicians who are just on call. Like, so if an artist comes in and they don't have a guitarist or they don't have a drummer or pianist or whatever, you have people that you know in the area that can come in, and usually they make friends with a lot of the groups, so they'll come in and they're just cool. They just gel with everybody. So we would get piano players, guitar players, and all of them would buy their drugs from our studio too. And now that I think back about it, like, because two of the guys we worked with sold drugs as well.
So how are studios not getting rated?
I think the music industry is
all
just
the time.
Music. I think entertainment, man, it was just unobserved.
Everyone's greasing each other's palms too. Keep in mind they're probably protecting.
Totally.
There's ways to kind of not.
We'll take care of you.
I'm not saying cops won't try to bust it.
You've got a cop section at every concert where they're sitting in the front row.
I just think people who have money are able to make things kind of go away, and not all the time, but in a lot of situations.
Lou Pearlman owned Church Street Station in Orlando, so it just was weird. He had such a big name. As creepy as that dude was, he had big enough name.
Was that the bar area that
the bar
had?
district in Orlando? At the edge of downtown Orlando.
They had great bars there.
Oh yeah, we used to party down there because we could get into all the clubs for free because the place I worked at owned them.
I was at one of those bars one time, and I can't remember. It was either Backstreet or NSYNC, one of the two. We're kind of there, and they were hanging out a little bit, and you'd see one of them pop around. So I assume that was probably part of it, right? He'd have his bands go in there, and that would make it cool. So
that was
Lou
exactly what he
found
would
the
do.
Backstreet Boys, right?
Yes, he did. Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Did you ever see him try to touch him or anything? Because that was the claim.
No, there was it's just stuff I haven't thought about in a long time. There was an artist they were trying to make we have to be talking 2 months before he got arrested. It was an artist named Jesse something. I can't remember, but he was a solo boy. They were trying to make a solo act out of him. He was like a blonde dude.
Was he on MTV?
I think he was. There's a documentary. If I could find it, they were filming a documentary. I was the engineer assigned with him, so I'm in the background of a lot of those shots as a kid.
Oh, wow.
As a young adult rather.
Right.
But yeah, if I could figure out who that was, I was thinking about that the other day. But if I could find that, there was a camera crew following around. But
was it Jesse McCartney? He did the Beautiful Soul song.
I don't think it was.
You and Your Beautiful Soul?
I'd have to see him.
Okay.
It was Jesse something. It was this would have to be 2000, maybe 5 or 4, somewhere in that ballpark. It was maybe it was 5. It feels like 2005-ish.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. Again, I haven't thought about these dates in a long time, but he was coming up, and they were telling him he was going to be big, even to the point where I kind of got a glimpse into how it all works. They give you a ton of money when they sign you. They just give you, like $100,000, whatever it is. And they don't tell you, though, that you have to pay that back. That's just them crediting you $100,000.
Oh.
And by your record sales, it's supposed to pay that back. And if they don't, especially after your first album,
then you're going to be...
They just slip you a little bill at the end, and they go, hey, well, since your album didn't make this money, we're going to need this.
Lou Pearlman needs you to go meet him in the back room.
Pretty much. So I remember they were getting him up, and I thought he was going to be a big artist, and then I remember he got arrested right during the time, and I was chatting with the kids saying, like, man, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. And so I never knew if his career took off. That's why I don't know if he actually got a hit song out
the
or
kid
anything.
I'm talking about, Jesse McCartney, Beautiful Soul, was a hit in 2004.
Gosh, it's all kind of lining up in that same time frame. Was he a transcontinental guy, the Jesse McCarthy? It could be. I don't remember his last name.
I'm looking to see what his deal was. And how he started, but yeah, it is in that era.
But so when they give you that money, they tell you to go out and change your image. So they gave him that money, and they go get some tattoos, go get some cooler clothes, go get yourself a car. They tell you to go buy all this stuff so that you're already working on your image before they start working on your image.
Okay.
And they give you all that money, and I think a lot of these people think, all right, cool, this is just kind of what I get for trying to be famous, to get my image and my look going, but they don't realize that that's actually, you got to pay that back.
Dang.
I think that's what bankrupts a lot of bands. You only hear one-hit wonders, and then they disappear. It's because they're in debt.
That sucks.
It does suck. Oh, funny enough, I was telling Bird this too. In the industry, a lot of my professors at Full Sail, they're people who worked in the industry, and then they become professors.
Yeah,
and,
that's the big production school in Orlando.
Yes, that's where I attended college, and stories that ran rampant were engineers who worked with Jennifer Lopez, and they would talk about how hard and difficult it was to work with her because her attitude was incredibly poor, but also that she sang so poorly that it would take the engineers all day to correct her tracks just to be usable. And then often they would hire, and I think you played audio of this before, but they would hire backup singers to kind of mask.
There's a backup singer who claims that she's all up on Jenny from the Block.
That it's her.
She goes, this is my
It's my
voice.
laugh. It's my voice.
I've seen quite a bit of her, and I believe her.
Right.
And then the other one was that never sign a contract with Diddy because he will rip you off and steal all your money. That was always the other thing. Never, ever sign with Diddy in the industry. This is what they used to say, because he will rip you off. That was the rumors. And this is, I mean, we're talking, what is this, 20 years ago now.
And secretly film you, too.
Yeah. So this was before we knew anything. This was just when he was still kind of at the, he's still kind of peaking a little bit. He was, no longer rapping. He was just doing I think honestly, he had just started Ciroc and stuff.
Okay.
These Diddy stories have to be the least surprising thing ever.
That's the funny thing about the music industry. You hear these stories and they get people, confirm them, but then no one ever cares or does anything with it. It just becomes a story that people tell in the halls.
The thing that everyone keeps saying about Diddy was how arrogant he was. Even when he
gangster.
Even when he was young, he just was arrogant to where people didn't like him, and he just became a major player. And if you're a major player with arrogance, look out.
Well, you can fool people with arrogance. They go, what does this guy know that I don't know? You can get fooled until you see through, until you poke holes in it. You can it can fool a lot of people for just long enough. But that was what we always heard, Jennifer Lopez and P. Diddy.
We were watching Jenny from the Block, the video. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Gosh, that fucking video sucks.
Terrible.
Holy shit.
I like going back to look at pictures of J-Lo when she was with Diddy. Her look was entirely different. She tried to look so hard.
She does that one weird dance in the middle of it. She's like going down like that and going like it doesn't even make sense.
What are you doing, girl?
Yeah, J-Lo budget could do it better.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, though, man. The stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
What a
cool.
world.
The engineer that worked on the Mr. Brightside song, he brought in the mixtapes before they edited those from the Killers, and we got to sit and listen to all the completely raw tracks from that album, Hot Fuzz.
Did you guys recognize then how good it could be?
So that song was just getting hot. So it was just funny because we go, oh, we know this song, and he goes here, and he was playing us the tracks without any effects on them, the vocals without any effects on them. And it's just like it sounds like such a different group.
That's
Does it sound bad or
no,
worse?
not bad
Just
at all.
Different. Okay.
Just it sounds like rock. It's just so where I would put them more as like a kind of like a dance pop rock, synth rock, synth rock.
Yeah,
it's a lot more rockin' in there because he does a lot to his vocals to give it that kind of cool sound. Not that he sings poor; he sings great.
Okay,
it's just the effect that he uses is kind of his own signature effect.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But when you hear him unaffected, it sounds so different.
Yeah, fascinating. What a great album too.
Oh, it's one of the best. I have that out. That was a band I accidentally saw. I went to a concert on the wrong day and I saw the Killers and I ended up getting their album.
Like, oh, well, just stick around.
It's the Killers and Coheed and Cambria, two random groups.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That is odd. How about that? That's cool. I tell you, I hear Denny stories all day long.
I know.
Yeah. I haven't talked music industry stories in a long time.
I love it.
It is good stuff. All right. Well, thank y'all for being here today. You guys have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. We will be back here on Tuesday. Talk to you then. Goodbye.